Newcastle United legend Warren Barton. I just want to run through a couple of the teams he's played for and a couple of the appearances that he's had before we get him on properly. Maidstone, 42 appearances. Wimbledon, 180 his first time there. Newcastle United, 163. Derby County, 53. Then it goes on to QPR, Wimbledon, and finished his career at Dagenham and Redbridge. Warren Barton, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you very much. Yeah, all is good. I enjoyed my career, had a bit of fun from lower league, non-league, to the Premier League and the entertainers. So, yeah, I've seen a little bit of things that have gone on. But, yeah, thoroughly enjoyed my time, obviously, with Newcastle.
I just want to take you back because there's not many professional footballers now that know or have a work ethic in terms of outside of football. I know you started your career and you were working at the time, weren't you, was it a mailing room?
Yeah, it sounded glamorous, my friend, but it was Arthur Anderson, which is an American company for chartered accountants. And I put that on my resume. So everyone thinks, oh, he's a chartered accountant. But I was actually in the mail room picking up the documents with a good friend of mine from school, playing lower league, playing non-league football at Dagenham and Redbridge at the time. Was told twice at Watford and at Leyton Orient, too small, wasn't going to make it. But rather than giving up, I had to make ends meet. So I used to travel across London on a 50cc moped, go to work, get the documents, take them up to the secretaries and to the managers, get back on my bike, go across London again and go and do some training 4 days a week with builders, with plumbers, with policemen that had played non-league football as well. So it was a learning curve at a 15, 16-year-old that made me realise that you've got to work for something. But it was worth it in the end, as I said. But it sounded a lot more glamorous working for a chartered accountant, but I was actually just picking up documents and taking them up to secretaries. But we had a lot of fun. It was for about eight months in central London.
It still gives you that kind of backing of having to do something before football. And I feel like because of the player you weren't, and I might be wrong here, but I think players like yourself who were, aggressive and kind of, you always, whenever you played, and I watched you, obviously through them years at Newcastle was my biggest time, as a fan growing up, it was always 150%. And I think that kind of things, you get the superstars now, but the younger players, the 20-year-old, that all they've done is play football. And again, I might be wrong here, but they don't have that backing now, the old YT, where you have to clean the boots and everything. Is that something you've noticed or not?
Yeah, I do. It's something that's materialised. You look at Stuart Pearce, he was an electrician. Ian Wright was on a building site. Chrissy Waddle worked. Peter Beardsley. They've all had to do outside jobs and they go on and play for their country. Like myself, I wasn't at that level and they played numerous times for their country. But we all had that same upbringing of we knew how lucky we was because you never, as a young person, I think it's just how the world is. I've got 3 young boys myself and I try and instill that into them as well as with their mum is that, you've got to work for everything. No one gives you anything. A little bit in society now, and it's our fault as parents that things are given to you. And if it doesn't work out, we go somewhere else. And that seems to be the way of life at the moment, but definitely in that generation. And listen, I played for the crazy gang. So if you wasn't all in and going to work hard, you got the living daylights beaten out of you. So, and also, as I said, it's a mental thing of where I grew up. No one gave me anything. My mum and dad was divorced. So, it was all part of, going out to that big world. And, I can't criticise young players that have been at 15, 16-year-old and everything's been given to them. But that little bit of desire and hunger, that never giving up, is something that spurred me on. I wasn't the most gifted player in the world, but the least I could do. And I think it's a given that you give everything you've got, whether it's training, whether it's doing an appearance in a hospital, whether it's going to see kids at a school like me and Les Ferdinand used to do quite a bit for Sir John Hall, or when you put the black and white shirt on, it doesn't make any difference. Whatever you do, and you do it with 100%. And Sir Bobby was like that. KK was like that as managers. They give everything. So, that part of life growing up, and it doesn't hurt anything. A bit of tradition, a bit of hard work. We get caught up in the dinosaur age and, it was like that in the good old days. Well, there's nothing wrong with a bit of hard work and commitment. Look what the team are doing now with a bit of hard work and commitment. They've got pride back in the country and in the town of Newcastle. So, it doesn't go a long way, a bit of hard work.
Yeah, perfect. And so obviously you're working a job and you're training, you're at Dagenham, and then you get offered you were the biggest transfer fee in the 4th division at the time on Wimbledon. I mean, obviously you'll not envisage that happening. You'll have wanted it to happen, but I'm presuming that you never thought that would come so quickly.
No, I mean, I had a coach at Maidstone as well who was there called Tommy Taylor. But just going backwards a little bit, when I was at Dagenham and Redbridge, I had a chance to the great Barry Fry that a lot of people may not know, but your generation maybe. And there's some great YouTube videos of Barry Fry. Tried to get me to Barnet before I went to Maidstone. He offered me £10,000 as a signing on fee. I was going to get £750 more than what I was going to get at Dagenham Red. When I signed for Maidstone, I was on £250 a week. It was probably costing me more on petrol and everything else, but I wanted to be a professional footballer. That's what I wanted to be. I got told twice I wasn't good enough. So Barry tried to get me there, and there was a guy called Stan Flashman. And part of my deal going to Barnet was that he was going to give me tickets for Wimbledon, Twickenham Rugby and FA Cups, because he was a ticket tout and he used to get all the tickets through Barry Fry and Stan Flashman. But I turned them down to go to Maidstone. And there was a coach there called Tommy Taylor who played at West Ham for a number of years. And Tommy took me under his wing a little bit and showed me what it was like to be a player. It didn't work out at Maidstone at the beginning. A couple of times I wasn't playing because they were so successful from the old non-league. They got into the Football League for the first time, and a couple of games I had to sit on the bench and bide my time. But once I got my chance in the team, I took it. So, yeah, I was a record for someone to go there. And because of John Still, who was a big influence in my career, very, very good manager at lower league, still in the game as well at Southend. He didn't want to go full time. So he went to the club that I was leaving with a couple of players and some money. And I went to Maidstone. And within 10 months of Keith Peacock, whose son Gavin obviously played with Newcastle. And Keith was a great coach for Kerbersley at Charlton. I went the other direction. I went to Maidstone, and we had a great 10 months, made the playoffs, lost to Cambridge, to Dion Dublin's team. And lucky enough, I got picked up. There was a few scouts watching at that time in London, and one of them was Wimbledon. And they come in and signed me straight away.
And then, so you go on, obviously, on to Wimbledon, and I'm presuming that it was nothing like you'd experienced. I've spoken to Paul Robinson, a friend of mine who was at Wimbledon on loan, I think, from Newcastle. And he told us a couple of stories and a few other people. But can you give a little bit of insight? I know, again, you'll have been asked this a million times, but it is for younger people. They'll not realise what Wimbledon was like, because it doesn't exist anymore, that club, does it? That kind of club, sorry.
No. I mean, it's AFC Wimbledon. Being at a non-league club and you're going back late 80s, early 90s, it was, you went out there and you played and you enjoyed yourself afterwards with your mates. You play. It was all part of the culture of being in that division. And then going to Wimbledon, what they had done had gone through the lower leagues and promoted a little bit what Wrexham are doing, keep going up the leagues, and they got into the Premier League, Football League as it was at the time, and then into the Premier League. The year before I went, they'd won the FA Cup, beat the mighty Liverpool with all their great superstars. And
great game as well, wasn't it?
Probably the biggest shock of all time in the FA Cup history, that they won the FA Cup. So Wimbledon had always kept that players' feet on the ground, and if you didn't, they'd set your clothes on fire, they'd cut your clothes up. There's lots of stories that we've had, and they're all true because it was part of the culture at that football club. We're going to win at all costs. There's no superstars. We had Vinnie Jones and John Fashanu, but they was one of the boys, and we made it perfectly clear, that we was all amongst each other. There was one player, I won't mention his name because he probably hasn't paid his bill, but at the time he hadn't paid his poll tax, so they was coming down and council tax to get him. So we quickly hid him in the back of a car in the boot of the car. So we thought, excuse my language, we thought, fuck it, we'll leave him in there for 2 hours. We went and trained and left him in there because the council people was looking for him. So they was all watching us train. So we left them in there. Big John Hartson come, big money signing, £7 million at the time. Big John comes in from West Ham. We set his clothes on fire. It was all part of it. And, this all come, which is crazy as it sounds. And I went to, I think, one of the best chairman at the time, Sir John Hall, who had a little bit of a switch in him as well. He wasn't the full set, but he he knew what he wanted. And Sam Maman, the chairman at Wimbledon, was like this. And it all come from Sam Maman. These type of things is, make sure this happens. And we used to play Who Wants to Be a Millionaire against him. And it was us against him, and he'd always win. And we'd beat the crap out of him. He'd give us £50 if we'd won and beat him. But it was all these games and fighting together. And, good job there wasn't cameras at the time because, we won a lot of games in the tunnel. Big John Fashanu would come out all oiled up and his top off. And there'd always be someone from Coventry or Southampton or Norwich. Oh, this is not the crazy gang. They're not the crazy gang of old, and what Wally Downs and Hodges used to do and people like that. John would sort him out in the tunnel, or you'd hear, the ball would be down the other end. You'd hear a slap. You'd see someone on the floor, and the guy, would have blood coming out of his nose, and that game was already won. We'd win that, we'd go again. I'm not saying it's the right thing to do, and I'm not saying for kids to go out and do that, but we did everything we could to try and win. Yeah. And the main point, I remember we played Everton with the great Neville Southall in goal and Ratcliffe and all them people. There was a bit of a commotion at half time, and I broke it up. I got my hands in there and pushed their defender away and pushed our player away. We come into the little locker room, changing room at Plough Lane at Wimbledon, which is no bigger than, 10 foot by 10 foot. It was tiny. Fascists come in and throw me against the wall and slap me across the head and said, "Don't ever effing do that again." And I was like, what? I didn't even know what I'd done. He went, "It's always us against them. So don't ever break it up. This is what we want. This is the culture." And, he told me with no uncertain terms that, this is what we do. We stick up against, ourselves. I remember I got into the England squad first time, first season, and a lot of, hype about me getting into it. In training, I'm flying around. I'm on cloud nine. At the time, we used to get the fax to say that you was in the England squad. I run past John. He's clotheslined me, knocked me on the floor, nearly broke my windpipe. He said, "Just settle down a little bit. You ain't done anything yet." Them type of things, Yeah.
Held in good stead for the future.
All in good stead, and maybe not get too carried away. And as I said, it was a lot of things that we did well. We was a good team. We had some good players. We had some great games against Newcastle as well. And it was all part of the culture, which is something that's carried me on in life. I live my life how I live my life. I try and live it the right way. Made mistakes like everybody else. But we had some great times at Wimbledon, and we're still on WhatsApp now. We lost, unfortunately, Joe Kinnear, who was my manager at Wimbledon. He wasn't my manager at Newcastle, but I had a lot of time for Joe. And we're still like 15, 20 of us communicating on WhatsApp. I couldn't get there because I was in America, but there was about 20 odd players there that turned up, and the staff as well that was there. So we had a great time. But after 5 years, it was ready for me to try and win something, try and further my career. Although at Wimbledon, we never finished under 10th or 11th, and we competed well, but I wanted to compete. I wanted to play in Europe. I wanted to try and win a trophy.
Yeah, and you kind of went from being the most expensive defender from a fourth division club to being the most expensive defender in English football when you moved to Newcastle United, a game which is phenomenal. When you think of all the kind of transfers that's been in at that time, obviously you were highly regarded. You go to Newcastle for 4 million, which is probably now you're looking at easy 40 million, maybe 35, 40 million, maybe more, to be fair.
Be a bargain as well for 40 million.
Bargain. When you look at that, it's crazy, isn't it, in terms of the numbers? But going to Newcastle on that massive transfer fee at the time, was that a little bit pressure on you? You don't seem like the character, and I've obviously, because I was 12, 13 getting into football when you signed, and watching you every week, you don't seem like the character that's going to kind of affect you. I always watched you and thought you always seemed in control. Some players, they've got that little spark where they'll go off for 5-10 minutes and you kind of worry that they're not going to come back in the game. You always kind of had that, I don't know, it was a calmness, even though you were very kind of aggressive in the tackle and you won things and you 100%. But is that when you went there, was that kind of, oh, well, it's 4 million, it doesn't matter, I'm just going to crack on anyway?
No, the opposite. It was pride of, as I said to you, being told twice I was too small, never going to make it. Yeah. Going across London on a moped when it's pouring with rain and my fingers are freezing to get to work and then get back to training. So for someone to pay that for me, I was so proud of it. Yes, it comes with pressure, but the great thing is Les Ferdinand come in 2 days later for 6 million. So that took the pressure right off. So that was cool as well. But there'd been speculation. I'd spoken to Arsenal and David Dean. They hadn't actually got the manager yet, and they was waiting for Arsene Wenger to come in. I met Kevin Keegan. We had a meeting on the bank holiday, and he said, tapped me on the leg and said, come and join a big club. I was so excited about that opportunity to play for him. I'd playing at St James's Park when it was 36,000, and I remember doing a call down with a friend of mine on the field at Wimbledon and said, imagine playing for this lot. The fans are fantastic, the area. You got to remember as well, Wimbledon was in London. We were sharing a stadium with Crystal Palace. Great fans, loyal fans, but there wasn't a lot of them. There wasn't a lot. It wasn't a big club, and we had more people watching us at Maiden Castle when you was probably 12, 13 coming to watch us sometimes at training than we used to have at some Premier League games for Wimbledon, which is, it just shows you the difference in where you're going in the Northeast, where they love their football. It's about their football. And I was so proud of that. Yeah, you're right. It does come with pressure, but I wasn't a player that was, oh my God, I can't believe it. I was like, I'm going to show them how good I am. I want to play well every game. I ended up playing, 220 games with substitutions and European games and things like that. And it was the biggest honour. And even at the times when it got a little bit difficult, people that, a little bit younger didn't know. There was a couple of times where the fans was on my back because I wasn't playing well. I was playing crap. But not one moment did I think about leaving, because once you get to that club, and Bruno's, I think, said it in Trippier. I've had a conversation with Kieran about it. He said, it's a unique football club, and he'll end up staying up there, I think, Kieran, and Bruno loves it, because once you're adopted, once they take you into their hearts, the people up in the Northeast, you ain't going to get that anywhere else. I don't care where you go. You're not going to get that. And it's such a special feeling and a bond that you have with the fans at Travel or St James's Park. And, thinking about it now, the hairs stand up on my legs, back of my neck and everything, because it was such a special time. And, I miss it. It was the best thing in my life, professionally. And also, I got married. I lived up there. My kids was up there. We had a great time. And as I said, to be given that price tag as the best defender, most expensive defender, was a big honour. And we had great times up there. We had wonderful times.
And what was some of your best memories, kind of game wise? I mean, was it the Champions League games? Was it? I mean, you captained Newcastle in the Champions League, if I remember rightly. That would have obviously been an honour. But in terms of your favourite kind of games, have you got a couple that stand out?
Yeah, I think your first one's always your memorable one. There's a lot of speculation. We're coming at home, and me and Les was warming up beforehand, and the whole stadium was black and white, and I mean the whole stadium. And at that time, as I said, there was only 36,000. And me and Les was like, this is unbelievable. This is crazy. We win the game 3-0. Les gets a goal, which is always great because they spent a lot of money on Les at the time. You're talking about me for 4 million. You've got Les Ferdinand for 6 million. You've got David Ginola for 2.5 million. So God knows what them two would have been worth now. They would have been touching the hundreds. So, them two, got off to a great start. That was a wonderful game. You're right, the Barcelona game to beat. Luis Enrique and Figo, Shea Given put out save after save at the end to beat them. Tino with a hat-trick. Keith Gillespie, probably the best game he ever had for Newcastle. And he had some great games, but we won that one. I always remember the Nottingham Forest one, and it was quite ironic because it was a couple of weeks ago. We won 5-0 at home, and I had a decent game. I had about 3 assists and was involved in a good game. We won 5-0. That got us into the Champions League, and then we heard that the Mackhams and the Smoggies have got relegated. So that was a really good time.
Good time
to be a Newcastle fan. Although we missed the derbies. If we're being really honest, when we was all in the Premier League, the Northeast, it was great. It was great for the area. It was great for the region. And most times we had a lot of bragging rights to do that, except for 1 or 2, but we won't talk about that. The 5-0 against United, although I only had a substitute appearance, that was a wonderful game as well. So,
was there people in Martha's and stuff afterwards, the 5-0?
I don't know. I've never been. I didn't know where that was. Martha's or the Quayside or Julie's. I didn't know where that was. The lads like Lee Clark and Steve Watson and Steve Howie used to try and get me in there, but me and Les would never go there. We never knew where it was.
See what my class were straight in the Italians, a little bit of pasta, red wine. I bet.
Yeah, of course. That was the thing. We had the pasta and we thought we was doing well, and then we finished about 1 o'clock. But yeah, great times, as I said. And he, you was too young, but you probably still went out sometimes. But that whole area, that it go from the big market down, and everybody was out, and everybody was having fun, and everybody was looking forward to the next game. And to have that, KK made that perfectly clear with the four of us when we come with Shaka and David, that to have that power in your hand to win they work so hard Monday to Friday, the people up there, whether it's snowing, sun shines out, or whatever it is. Saturday, you've got to entertain them, you've got to perform, and you've got to win. And we had the chance to do that for a number of years. And when you do that and you see the people, happy and celebrating, it's a great responsibility, but something that I had with a lot of pride. And then a little bit afterwards, when obviously Big Alan come, and Rob Lee had always been there, and Bez, I got on, John Beresford I got on well with. But then Shay come in, Gary Speed come in, great characters, great people. Tino Asprilla, who I mentioned as well, David Batty. Wonderful times to be with some good people. Really, really. Philip Albert is another one. Pavel Cernacek. Great people that you want to be around. And we miss a couple of them that are not with us anymore. But great times, as I said. Fun to be in Newcastle at that time. And people we speak to, remind us about that. And I always remind them is that we failed because we had it, and we give it away. And there's not a day, not a moment go past that, I don't think about that, and not for me, and not for, what it would say, oh yeah, I've won the Premier League, but for the people, for the city. You look at Leicester won it, Blackburn have won it, Liverpool had not won it for a while, they've won it. We should have won it and had that for the people, and for someone like Sir John Hall, that have, given so much to the people up there. And Freddie, and people like that, it would have been wonderful. But that's probably what makes it so romantic, that we played so well, called the entertainers, but didn't quite get over the finishing line.
Do you feel like looking back on it now, do you think it was completely down to the management, or do you think that it was a case of nobody had really been in that position to that point and kind of could have managed it maybe differently? I don't know if it was Alex Ferguson. This isn't a slant on Keegan, obviously, but I just mean because it was everyone's first time of being up there, and the players and the manager and the staff. Do you think it just got a little bit too much, maybe? Or
yeah, no, I think that's a great question and a valid point as well. I think it's three things. We'd only had Peter Beardsley win a trophy in the Premier League, which is the football league. So you'd only had one person that had done it, and that includes the manager as well. And me, Peter, and Les actually was having a chat in Maiden Castle, and we spoke to Terry McDermott for lunch, and it was about February time, maybe just before the Manchester United game, because I think that was the turning point when Manchester United beat us, and Cantona scored.
Yeah.
We never really recovered from that. I don't think KK recovered from that, because we battered them. We should have been 3-0 up at half time, but we wasn't. Got done with a sucker punch. But a couple of weeks before, we said, do we need to tighten it up a little bit? Do we need to grind results out? And Terry said, KK's not going to do it. He's going to do it his way. He wants to win it a certain way, and that's how we're going to do it. And it's like, okay, fair enough. That's what he wants. That's what the gaffer wants. And so we had spoken about it as a group, only a small group, but we'd spoke about it. And, we was only going to win it one way. And yeah, I understand, Tino come in, and it wasn't down to Tino, but the shape got changed a little bit. I mean, he come on against Middlesbrough, and he was brilliant. Everybody knows the pictures with the fur coat and it's snowing. He comes on and changes the game. And then Kevin was trying to fit, everybody in and pushing Rob Lee out. Keith was left out. And then we just lost, because me and Keith had a great relationship. And you have a little bit of dip. So if my former dipped, bring Steve Watson on, but still keep the shape. So I think we all have to take responsibility. The pressure did get to us all. We was box office, so we was never really playing on a Saturday afternoon. We was either the last game on the Sunday or Monday Night Football. Mm-hmm. We was the entertainers, so we was always change it. United, because of maybe European football, they was playing on a Saturday, beating Southampton or whoever they was beating, Coventry at home, and then they was getting ready for the week, and then we had to wait a couple of days and then go. So I think lack of experience, changing our system when we was a 4-4-2 with Pedro just in the hole and supplying leads, and we could have changed that a little bit in that way, and we just lost momentum. And momentum's such a big thing. it was like a grain of sand through your hand. The more we was trying to grab it, it was slipping through us, and game after game. And
there's a frustration that creeps in, isn't there? I think this is just in general when you're riding their crest into Christmas and everything's going well, and like you say, the team's kind of settled, wasn't it? And then when it changes a little bit, and then you're running after something and trying to keep a hold of something, that then has this reverse effect, doesn't it? Where you're like, actually, we really need to get this 3 points, instead of going out and thinking, we'll win the day. We've won the last 5 games. It's fine. That creeps in, doesn't it?
Yeah, and again, Arsenal had that last season.
Yeah.
Not this season, last season. Now everything was riding high, and they have one result, and then they need to win, and then they have to get a win, and it just gets, United have been there, and Fergie had been there, and it's mind games, the things that he was saying and what they was doing, and they'd been there, seen it, done it, and we hadn't, and we was just trying to. We was treading water in the end to try and catch them up. We give ourselves a chance, but realistically, we know they'd go away to Middlesbrough and get a result. And as I said, the rest is history. Great for the football club. The next summer they go and break the record and bring Alan Shearer in. So we think, right, we've got a chance. And Big Al comes in, and we wasn't doing great, but we was there or thereabouts for the Premier League. And then unfortunately, KK decided to walk out, and that was a massive blow for all of us because. Yes, we'd come up for the club and we wanted to be there and we loved it up there, but we'd all been really poached by KK. He'd come down and seen Rob Lee, and he'd seen David, and he'd spoken to Les and spoken to me, and got Tino in and got David Batty in, and then obviously it left. So that was always a difficult moment, even though someone like Kenny Dalglish comes in, who's got great respect and pedigree of winning something. It was a big moment for us, because we'd all been there for KK, and unfortunately we didn't give him what he needed, and then he left at that Christmas time.
But fond memories, as always, obviously, of Newcastle, and we don't want to end that Newcastle. But again, the good thing about it is still the most successful Premier League team from Newcastle's had. So it's not a doom and gloom story, because we've done amazingly, and like they say, entertain as probably the best team. One of the best teams, if not the best, entertainment-wise in history, isn't it, really, in the Premier League? And it's not just from a Newcastle point of view. A lot of people, we became everyone's second team, didn't we, at the time?
Yeah, I think it's like the Grandad Collar, the stadium, the fans. Really, the Premier League needed someone like that, and we was that. You've got the team that everybody wants to support and everybody get buy-in. My time at Newcastle was brilliant. We played in cup finals, we played in the Champions League. I got to work under Sir Bobby Robson for 3 or 4 years. He was brilliant and got the pride back in the city and got the club going again. Exactly what Eddie's doing now. There's still a long way to go with this team, and there's still a little bit of room for improvement, but they've got a lot of similarities to how we are. They interact well with the fans, they get on with the fans, and that's going to stand them in good stead. So yeah, as I said, I had 7, nearly 8 years up there, which was, as I said, wonderful time. So yeah, you have 1 or 2 disappointments, but people need to know that, because that's why we're starved for so much success, because that's what happened. It was 20 odd years ago, but it's still in the back of a lot of people's mind of where we want to be to and where the Premier League is. And, we was a big part of that. And
just to keep on in Newcastle for now, the difference is now from that team, and to be fair, I think we scored more goals this season than we did that year, which seems hard to believe, really. What's the kind of similarities and differences in terms of the team now this season and when the 96 team?
Yeah, I think a lot of similarities between, they want to always go forward. They're not a team that wants to sit back and invite pressure. They want to go forward. They want to express themselves. Very similar with both fullbacks. Me and John, probably at the first time, really, because KK, when I went there, we're used to fullbacks. One would go up, the other would come through the middle, or vice versa. If John would push up, you would think, KK said, no, I want you to go up. I want David to go up. If David and Keith go in, you go out. If they go out, you go in. And we was going to squeeze up and really leave 3 people at the back, and then expect me and Bez, because we was good athletes, to get back. That's why he said, as soon as you lose it, get back. You're quick enough to get back. So that was part of our plan, to really suffocate teams and push on. So Eddie wants to do that. He wants to, you hear this word, play on the front foot. He wants to press, which has become a bit of a buzzword at the moment. But we was trying to suffocate teams, Man City do it. If you see Man City play like they did against West Ham, the first 15, 20 minutes, everything is done quick. Yeah. Everything, whether a throw in, whether it's a pass. We was like that. KK said, beat them in the first 15 minutes. When you looked at our stats, normally out of our home games, at least 50% we'd be up by at least 1-0, 2-0 by 20 minutes. And the game was virtually over then because we could give it to Peter Beardsley and he'd keep hold of it and pass the ball around for fun and smack one in the top corner when we needed to. So, that's a lot of similarities in that. I spoke to Kieran about, that as well. And I actually said to Eddie, when things are going well, don't deviate, because we deviated a little bit. So, there's a lot of similarities what he wants. He knows how important the fans are. He knows how lucky he is to be a manager of Newcastle. Bruno knows that. Joe Linton know it. You see now, Richie's just left, and he'll be sad because he's had great time up there. Not played as much as he would have liked to in the last couple of years, but that's how the club's evolving. Isaac, an out-and-out forward who wants to score goals. He ain't Les. He's not Andy Cole, and he's definitely not Alan Shearer, but he's shown good steps about doing that as well. And I love, you've got the backbone of a couple of Geordies in there, Big Dan Burns, and in midfield they've got that balance as well, like we had with Lee Clark and Steve Watson and Robbie Elliott. There's a few Geordies sprinkled in now. Sean Longstaff as well is another one. So you've got that balance, and it is similar, and they're a joy to watch. And whatever happens, probably I think one game this season I thought they haven't played well, the Villa game. Yeah. Other than that, they've had a good go. They've had a good go, and they've had great results. Obviously against Spurs, where they've scored lots of goals. So and the 8-0 helps against Sheffield United. We did that against Wednesday, but we didn't do it against Sheffield United. So there is some similarities there when you say it, but I think we was better looking anyway.
Oh well,
when you got Ginola in there and Les, we're better looking.
Yeah, goes without doubt, doesn't it? And Les Ferdinand I played a couple of charity games over the last couple of years with Les, and he doesn't look any different.
I know, it pisses me off. I've seen it every time I come back to England, probably twice a year, and I try and see. I mean, I shared a room with him for 2 years, and we get on really well. And he used to come over my house for dinner every time he was up there. And I said to him, "You don't look any different." I said, "You pisses me off. He's still good looking. He's still got that smile. Yeah. He still looks $1 million.
Like this.
I said, "Yeah, I know. I've receded and got white hair and got wrinkles everywhere, and
you still look good. Don't worry about that. You still look good." The one thing I want to ask you quickly, I don't want to take too much of your time because I know it's probably really sunny where you are. But you mentioned before, was it 95 degrees?
Yeah, 95 in Houston. Yeah, Houston. But it's hot in Houston. But I live in California, so it's 70 degrees over there. So it's not.
That's why the tan's there, and
exactly.
Exactly. That's what you've swapped the horrible weather across here, and you're trying to keep up with Les Ferdinand and his lovely skin, so you've went to California. Makes sense now. Yeah. Quick one. New ownership, Newcastle. Similarities in terms of the love that the fan have got for when the John Hall was there to what we've got now, and a little bit on have you found as an ex-player that you've been more welcomed back into the club? Because I know a few of my friends, Ollie Bernard, a few of the ex-players, they're all back in now and feel very much part of it, whereas it wasn't like that for a long time, was it?
No, I'll just tell you a quick story. When I left England in 2008, I just finished my pro license, come to America for a change of life. I wanted to be out here with the kids in the sunshine and everything else. And I reached out to Newcastle and said, "Look, I'm going to be in America. MLS is growing, the league. Do you want me to be a scout or anything?" And come back very defiantly and said, "No, we don't need you. We've got a guy in Texas." I said, "Who is it?" He went, whatever his name was. I said, "I've never heard of him." I mean, not that I need to hear of him, but I'd never heard of any players from America coming to him. And I'd been in the club 8 years. And I said, "Listen, I want to help. I want to do whatever I can." He said, "No, it's all right. You don't need to." So I said, "Okay, fine." And then obviously the time that we had with the old ownership went on, and it, maybe I should have done it. Maybe I should. Well, I should have done it, and I did do it when it was so bad. And after COVID, and no one, I was speaking to people like yourself, no one wanted to go to the club. They was giving tickets away. And then I heard that people saying about, well, we're just ticking along, we're just surviving. And everyone was laying the boot into us. And I come out and said, that's not our club. That's not the club that I I play for, and I know the people up there would love to be. People was only going up there to the food bank. They wasn't even going to watch the game. They just wanted to help the people in the North East. So I spoke out on Sky or BBC or whatever it was about that ain't good enough. You know, this is not our football club. We want to be competing. I never said we want to win everything. And then Big Al helped me out. He come on and said the same thing. Rob Lee. And then it snowballed onto it. And then obviously the new owners come in. And I know for a fact, I've spoken to them a couple of times, they was overwhelmed by the love of the supporters because how bad it was. And it might have been a small thing or it might have been coincidental that they started cleaning the stadium, the windows, and showed like they had a bit of care for the club. And, you know, because I went to the stadium, I took my youngest son to a tour over there and I went and met some people up there, went on to and it looked like an old shop on the corner that had just been left to rot. Yeah. You know, and I walked into that football club and I was like, "Fucking hell, this ain't the club." And the new owners have gone in, like Sir John. Sir John had gone there when it was at the bottom and built it up. So the Metro Centre and everything else. But these owners have come in and was overwhelmed by the support from the fans and the love, and then that obligation of like, I'm going to put money into it. I'm going to start going. Speaking to them like I have done as well. There's a plan. It wasn't just I'm going to go in and throw money everywhere and then I'm going to, you know, look at what's happened at Chelsea. They're throwing money everywhere, but it's not getting them anywhere. There's a project, there's an idea, and there's a vision of what they want to do and how they're going to do it. They're not going to be took for granted. You know, the Trippier situation when everyone was saying, "Oh, he's on this, he's on that." He actually told me, he said, "We paid this, and that's all we're paying. Not his wages because that's private, but this is what we're doing." So they knew exactly what they wanted and they built it on, and they're there for the long term. It's not just a 5 years. So it's very, very similar. And to answer your question, yeah, they reached out to me to go to the cup final against Man United. It was great because I've not seen Roberto Solano for years. And I shouldn't have done, but we non-stop laughed through the game because it wasn't a great game. But me and Nobby, we had a connection as well. And Alan was there, Shola was there, Rob Lee's there, Shay's there. Harps is there as well, so we're all having a chat and laughing. And you know, the result wasn't great. We had a great time in Trafalgar Square the night before and everything else, but we was reminiscing and chatting and all this. And there was a lot of people that, you know, there was a young lady that was in now part of marketing and commercial. She said, "I remember being in the club shop and you used to come in and, you know, you used to have the kids with you. And I remember Gary coming in and people like that." And so they're still there and they've got a smile on their face now and they're going into work with a bit of pride. And that's all we've always wanted. Of course, we want to win trophy after trophy. Yes, we want to do that, but we want to be proud about our football club. And that time that we had, we wasn't. And I just had enough. I was like 5,000 miles away. So I could have just left it and said,
"Yeah, of course,
nothing to do with me." But I got on, as I said, it's a fucking joke. We're not a club that simmers and just ticks along. And my brief is just to survive. Whether it is your brief or not, don't just survive. Give it everything, you know. And Ashley, obviously, you know, was not interested. But that's in the past. So answer your question, it's very much like we're being positive now. Still got a long way to go. The expectations are high. Yeah. You know, we're gonna have to deliver. But we had that every week. You said, you know, when we drove into St James's Park under KK or Sir Bobby or whoever it was, we had an obligation to win a game. I remember getting booed off against Watford and Bradford because we only won 1-0. And then we beat Burnley and did a fucking lap of honour. You know, and that's the difference. That's how low it got. So it's a great football club. It's got back its pride. We had a great game against PSG, beat them 4-1, similar to what we did against Barcelona. We've competed. We've had some great nights, and I'm sure there are going to be many, many nights out because of the ownership, because of the people. You know, again, they was in Monaco. Everyone think, "Oh, this," but they was working. They're working over. Yes, of course, they're on a boat and on a yacht. Yeah. That's the world they live in. But they're also working as well because I've got a lot of time for them. People, whatever happens, and also with Eddie, people start questioning Eddie. I think whatever happens, he still be respected and loved up there. And hopefully, he does get time. He does get a trophy because I really like him as a person, and I love the way that he understands what it is to be a manager of a great football club like Newcastle. So he knows every morning he wakes up and says, "Thank you," because it's a great club.
Yeah, perfect. Absolutely perfect. One player you could pick right now to play for Newcastle, not Mbappe. I mean, a realistic target. If you could choose someone, who would you have?
Well, I was being optimistic when Jude Bellingham left Dortmund, and there was a chance to go and get him, but that's never going to be around. You know, I'd look at there's players that are in Dortmund's team now that you'd go around. I know we probably need another striker, another player at the back as well. I just think we're going to get young, exciting players. There's a DNA of what players there are. I'm sure we're going to be pleasantly surprised with players coming in. We need someone with Isaac up there as well. Wilson does great, but we're not sure how long he's going to be on that right side as well. Maybe the equivalent of what we've got with Gordon, maybe someone on that right hand side. But we need to add, and I'm sure they will do. I hate putting names to it because I think there's sometimes that you fall on your face with it, but they're not doing too bad at the moment. But they definitely need to add to what we've got as well.
Perfect. And before you go, what you up to now? So you're working in America, TV work?
Yeah, I'm very lucky, blessed, as they say in America. I've been working with Fox now since I've been out here. I'm going to go to the Euros in Germany, so I'm working out there. I'm actually in Austin now, working for Apple TV with the MLS. So I do 25 games with them. So I'm keeping myself involved. I love to get in coaching. I do some coaching as well in San Diego. There's a new MLS team coming in there. So you might see me on the touchline helping out. But I've been very, very fortunate. But I love coming back to the Northeast, even though when it's pissing down with rain, it's always a great time to be out there. I've got some good friends, good people out there. So
you'll have to get yourself to Blythe Spartans with your mate Nobby. Obviously, over there, Blythe Spartans.
I don't know why, and it's again, I love Nobby. Why we didn't take him as a coach? He's bilingual. He's coached at a national team level. I even sent it to Harps. I said, get him in the club, get him somewhere, because yes, it's great for Nobby to be at Blythe Spartan, but he should be at Newcastle.
Yeah, 100%.
Please. I mean, we talk about, I see now we have like 15, 16 coaches. Surely we can get Nobby in there to work on set pieces, to work on something. I love Nobby. You obviously know that, but I would have him in the club coaching because he wants to coach, not just because he's an old friend or because he's an old player and a legend that everybody loves. He's got something to offer, and as I said, that language is important, particularly if we're getting South American players, that as well. And he knows the football club. Even the dog agrees. Even the dog agrees.
Get Nobby in.
Get Nobby in. Let's do a petition. We should do T-shirts. Get Nobby in. That'd be a good one. Wear them down the big market. Nobby in.
Hopefully it's a bit of a pathway for the youngsters to get themselves down to Blythe Spartans and we'll take the dog down. Warren, look, I don't want to keep you because it's boiling hot there. Thanks so much for taking the time today with us, and really, really appreciate talking to you. So does the dog, obviously, as you can hear. We'll end it there. Once again, thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you at Newcastle in the near future as well. Good luck in the Euros as well if you're across there. Fingers crossed.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Come on, England.